Veteran guard has struggled so far in the finals, and a foul's going to go against Clark. There's ball denial.
Can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? All right, so we talking about religious institutions and should they be taxed? All right, so actually you started, I guess I'm just on the negative side. So to me, my opening statements to suggest that religious institutions shouldn't be taxed is to ignore the rules established at the foundation of the country. And not only does that play down the invaluable contributions religious organizations make to their surrounding communities with their funds, but uh, there's this negative stigma that all pastors are flying in private jets, and that's far from reality. Like for every Benny Hinn that you see on TV, there's probably about 1,000 nameless pastors who weren't on TV. Like for instance, the pastor that I have, who's the pastor, the maintenance man, the groundskeeper, all while still working a full-time job. Point blank, taxing religious organizations would have a negative impact on the government, the churches, and the congregations of that churches. All of those would be losers, and that's my opening statement.
All right, so to make it clear, I believe that religious institutions should be taxed at a rate that forces them to donate a portion of their income. This way, they are forced to live by what they claim they stand for. And with you saying that I understand that you said that there's there are pastors who are flying in private jets and stuff, but that's far from the truth. But they still do exist. And in order to prevent that, I would like them to be taxed so that they aren't able to do that.
All right, so my first reasons for not being able to tax religious organization is the separation of church and state. So Thomas Jefferson, when drafting Article 1 of the Constitution, he came up with the anti-establishment clause. So the clause that's the clause they refer to when they speak to the wall that separates church and state. The anti-establishment clause states Congress shall pass no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So taxing a religious organization affects the free exercise of religion. In the Supreme Court decision, Waltz versus Tax Commission of the New York City, which I forgot the year, but it was a Supreme Court case. The power of tax involves the power to destroy. The taxing churches breaks down the healthy separation of church and state. That's what the Supreme Court ruled, and this is true. Like let's just say it was a 15% tax across the board at all religious organizations. While a 15% tax on all religious organization would not really hinder and not really hamper the function of these, like say these mega churches and stuff like that. For the smaller churches, a 15% tax on everything, that is seriously going to affect the way they're able to run their church. I personally go to a smaller congregation of church, and with any kind of tax that they'd have to pay on the collection that they take in, they would not be able to function. The churches would close, and that's where when the Supreme Court decided that taxing would affect the free exercise of religion.
All right. By taxing religious institutions, you are giving the shareholders the ability. By not taxing the religious institutions, you are giving the shareholders the ability to distribute the money freely, which in turn creates a system that the greedy can use to their advantage. Through taxation, churches will be forced to effectively allocate the money to charities or into communities so that they can receive the benefits for doing what they should be doing in the first place. Religious institutions get individuals emotionally invested in their goals by invoking fear of going to hell. Hell symbolizes failure, which we are taught from a very young age to avoid through the school system.
All right. Okay. So I hear that, but I completely disagree with that. When you go to a church and you are donating money and giving to that church, you're doing it. You're not forced to pay taxes. At least you're not forced to give into the collection plate. You're not forced to donate money. You're not. You can say that, but I promise you that there's many a Sunday that maybe I forgot to run to the ATM or something like that, and I didn't give. But these money, my second point, which was, hold on, let me check the time and to make sure I don't run over. Okay, a minute 19. Okay, my next point is when you look at community outreach. Okay, so churches provide services that neither, at least that their communities, to offset of the cost of the federal government. So churches provide meals for the homeless, tangible goods, childcare, lodging, counseling, courses, career services, and more. By religious organizations providing those are services that the federal government doesn't have to pay. If churches are required to pay taxes on the donations that they get in out of that collection plate, then that is less money that they're able to use to do those things, which, like I said, this is one hand feeding the other. So yeah, the government does not tax the religious organizations, but those religious organizations are giving back to those people. They are feeding the homeless. They're doing that. They're feeding into, like I said, they are giving an ally to the government so that the government does not have to cover those funds. So, like for instance, in 2015, the Church of Latter-day Saints, they donated 1.8 million to the American Red Cross for disaster relief. This year, it donated 1.5 million. This is money that the federal government does.
You mentioned that the churches don't force you to donate to the plate. I would like you to define your definition of forcing, because they may not physically force you, but in a sense, they are beating it into you, instilling into you that you should donate into the plate, that you should donate 10%. They're making you psychologically and subconsciously feel like if you don't give, then they associate not giving with a negative thing. They're attaching a negative connotation to not giving. So could you please define to me what your definition of forcing is?
Okay. For example, there are some Sundays, and I won't lie to you, there are some Sundays where I don't give, and there are Sundays that I wish I can, but not everybody. And I can see this, and I know it's probably bad to look at this, but there are some Sundays I see at church where they pass the collection plate and I don't have any money to give, or there's maybe somebody else that doesn't have money to give. It's not like they tell you if you do not give money, then they're about to kick you out of the church, or it's not like there's a bouncer at the door saying, hey, where's your money right here? There's no entrance fee to go to the church. That's why I say you're not forced. It's not like you go into the club and there's a dude there with like, hey, that's $10, then he stamps your hand, then you're able to go into the church.
That's actually a perfect example of what I'm saying. You said that you do not give that you don't give money every Sunday, but on the Sundays that you don't give, you feel bad. That is what the churches are doing to people. They're not forcing you physically, but psychologically and subconsciously they are. That is what I mean.
Okay, but now you're mistaken. It is not the organization of the church that is forcing me to give that. It is what I feel my obligation as a Christian is. My obligation as a Christian is to provide funds for the poor. And the church is just the outlet that I choose to do that through. because I know if I give $5 to the month, at least $5 a month to the church, I know that money is going to go to, like I said, I labeled the other stuff that they do, like I said, feeding the homeless and helping out with your homeless shelters. And I went through just the money with, when I say that the Red Cross, the Church of Latter-day Saints gave $1.8 million to the American Red Cross for disaster relief. That is a lot of money that they gave to help out people in need. And that is, like I said, that is actually helping the government right there. If the government taxes that money, that's less money that people are going to be able to give to the churches. And it's like I said, it's defeating the whole purpose. It's when the church is already providing great community services.
Just nod your head. Did you say that the church gave that to the Red Cross? See, I think you're misunderstanding the how taxation works. Because if you're giving money to a charitable, if you're allocating money toward a charitable donation, that would be a deduction from your taxes. And if a tax company if a church is getting taxed when they are distributing that money out to charities, that would lower their tax burden. So what I'm saying is, through taxation, that is going to force them to do what they say they're going to do.
All right, so I got this one for you, and hopefully you understand this. One of my other points is, if the government takes money, then at some point it's going to be required to give money. The reason why I say that is our government has a bad habit of giving out money to industries that they felt are being needed for the country to run successfully. So if the government takes tax money from an industry, if that industry fails, then that industry is probably going to ask the government for a bailout. And we all know about bailouts, depending on who's in control of the White House and who's in control of Congress. You look at the amount of stuff, like I said, if the government takes tax from the churches, then chances are, if the churches go towards that they're failing, they're going to ask for a bailout from that. That's one more organization that at some point may be able to do that. And you look at the automotive companies. The automotive company, their bailout was $110 billion. You look at the bank system bailout. The Treasury Department pumped in about $700 billion during the financial crash. One survey I found, which was the last survey, like 3,700 churches closed down in 2014. Just imagine if the government was taxing those money, and now the churches as an organization came and said, hey, I would like to get a bailout for the churches. That would be crazy. And not to mention the atheists that would go crazy and talks of separation of church and state. By religious organizations not being taxed, like I said, that ensures that there's that wall right there in between church and state. Don't give the church organizations any money, and don't take any from the religious organizations. Like I said, that is ensuring right there that it doesn't mix. And as a progressive,
Okay. Earlier, you spoke about donating, and you say that you choose to do your donating through the church. But my response to that is, yes, giving is a good thing, and I'm not saying that giving is a bad thing, but you're giving your seed to the church, and the church is doing what they want to do with it. Your seed doesn't always necessarily go towards a charitable donation. The Bible said that you're supposed to give 10% in tithing, but the Bible was also written by a man, a white man at that, and the Bible was used to enslave us back in the days. The church Christianity was forced upon us during the slave days. And you're saying that you use the church as your way of giving, but you could still give 10% of everything that you make to someone, and you physically know where it's going. Like you could not tell me what the churches are doing with your money, because the pastor gets paid from that. And like you're saying, you're saying that your specific pastor cleans the floor and stuff like that, but he still takes money home from that. He may not be a financially savvy person, which is why he's in the situation that he's in. That doesn't make, I'm not saying that he's a bad person or anything like that, but the people who are higher up, that I'm messed up right there. Pass.
Hey, I like how you passed that right there. Now, my other point is this. The parishioners, the people that go to that church, they've already taxed their money. So when I make money, so let's say we go with the 10% paying of tithes, okay? So there.
The money that you get paid, you're saying that the money that you donate is taxed? Shake your head or no? Yeah. All right. But when you file your taxes, you can still write that off. You can shake your head. You can shake your head. Yeah. All right. But if you're using that's the aspect of church that is like a business. Like the whole thing is a business. Like the pastor is basically like the president of the corporation, and the money funnels down. But there's also volunteers and stuff like that. And if it was treated as a corporation, then everyone could get their fair share and pay, and they could distribute the money more efficiently. And as a entity, as a for-profit entity, the money would have to be used more strategically in order for them to your donations. You're saying from their end is. It wouldn't be taxed if they distribute it efficiently, is what I'm saying. So the tax would be forcing them to distribute the money the way that they should be distributing the money in the first place.